Well, welcome everyone to Two Q's with Lisa Ward. I am your host, and today our guest is Miss Some. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. Well, first off, I like to introduce myself as, I'm a child of God. I am a wife, a mother, a daughter, a friend, a sister. And outside of all of that, I do have four different things going on in my life. And one of that being, I have two small businesses, and the first one is SAJ Partnership, and it is a company that focuses on education consulting. And we really support school districts nationally with school turnaround work and school reform work with an equity centered lens and culturally relevant lens. And so, really making sure that school districts are supporting those who they serve, the clients that they serve, the families that they serve, and so really just focusing on what does that need to look like for the leadership to support schools and school leaders on campuses. And so I work with individuals from executive directors and above to really support that work, as well as within this company. We do support project management, um, have a lot of experience with closing and consolidating of schools and bond management, and then also grant writing. And so that's SAJ Partnership. And then also I have another company, it's End Zone Services. And that's a company where we focus on supporting commercial companies with managing their operations. So anything from electrical, HVAC, plumbing, janitorial, communication platforms, maintenance, preventative services. We oversee all operations for different organizations, commercial organizations specifically. And then I have two nonprofits. And so these two nonprofits really are focused on supporting the marginalized communities and families. And so the first one being called Elite Scholars with a Purpose. And so we work to support African American males and Hispanic males that are aging out of the foster care system who want to go into education with scholarships as well as resources, mentorship, and technology, so laptops. And so that is an organization that recently just started, and we're branding it and getting it off the ground, and with emphasis to start providing those scholarships within this next year. And then the other nonprofit it is called Progress Point Tutoring, and it is an organization that provides free tutoring services to those families that have financial needs. And so I work with various universities with their students to volunteer their time to provide tutoring services to those families in need that need supports in that way. And so
Amazing.
that's about it.
Just it. Oh my goodness. That's so much.
Every day is different. I will tell you that every day.
Wonderful. Well, then this conversation might be a little interesting. I mean, we could focus on one or all, and there might be some overarching themes throughout, as we might discover. But I ask everyone the same two questions. And your first one is, what do you want that you don't already have?
So I will definitely say with the two nonprofits, currently funding them throughout my two businesses. And so it would be really, that's actually a blessing to be able to do that. However, I would really like to have that funding come from, other sources such as grants, donations, and so forth, and partnerships. But right now it works in the way that we're doing it, but it would be nice to actually have, other sources of funding to support those two organizations, so that we can increase our impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't have to always be funded by you.
Right.
It could be amplified if we had capital from other folks.
Yes.
So
And so it's, I'm really as I juggle, like I said, I have 4 things going on, and I actually, of course, we all have a lot more than that. There's more,
Mhm.
but it's always trying to, figure out to not be so comfortable and currently how it is, and then stepping out and creating that. I guess you could say it's around needing to create that ask, but just haven't, taken the time or having the time to really do that and really flesh out what does that need to look like with the ask and so forth. And so with the tutoring service, the Progress Point tutoring service, there's 4 of us that oversee, really support the work, and we all volunteer our time. And, I would like to be able to have a staff where, and they're all college students, young adults. I mean, they're so just, it's beautiful how they serve and want to be a part of the mission, and they give their time. But I would love to be able to provide them as well, with some type of end of the year, some type of stipend, to
Mhm.
support them as they're going through college. And so it really is a goal of mine to really start looking into what that needs to look like, to really support creating that ask and getting those different grant funds, and various donation sources.
Mhm. Yeah, you've
Yes.
almost answered the second question, is what's holding you back from achieving it. It's finding those avenues. I mean, using the skill set you already have for the
Mhm.
school, or no, not the school. Yes, with the school, writing grants for the school. So you're familiar with
Right,
the programs.
right.
Um, it would be interesting to see if you could not also, since you're familiar with at least the education platform, also apply for some of
Hmm.
those grants or partner
Hmm.
with organizations that have a foundation of
Hmm.
education as a part of the corporate
Right.
structure.
And so as you're saying that, like, I'm even like sitting here thinking, like, between both organizations, I really need someone to support the grant writing process.
Mhm.
Because of, the work that I do through um, the SHA partnership, it's honed in on supporting those organizations with that grant writing process. And so it's I need someone to be able to support with grant writing, for the 2 organizations that we currently have. And so again, there's those goals around scaling to that level, but again, the funding to be able to you know get to that level
Mhm.
of support. And so right now it's it's a small team, but we're mighty. I say that we're a mighty
Mhm.
team, but it's a small team, and everybody race against time, and how does this look with balancing everything else we have going on. So
Right. Delegation or knowing when to outsource,
hmm.
I think, is a challenge that as a business owner, we want to do all of the things. Well, there's only so many hours in the day. We can't
Right.
physically do everything.
Yes, I literally think I honestly I probably get 4 to 5 hours of sleep, because I can't turn it off. I know you've heard that from other people too, but it's like there's so much that needs to be done.
Mhm.
And with the operations company, I mean, we manage and contract various, we have various contractors under us. And so a lot of management going on, within that organization, that company. And so it's just like I said, at the beginning of this, every day is so very different. And so, you start off with, okay, here's my goals, but something might happen, over here with a certain, situation, and then you're having to, problem solve around something, and which took you half a day that you didn't plan on, and so forth.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's just a lot of balancing that comes into play with all of that. And, determining, like I said, what does that need to look like to scale to that, to be able to get some support around seeking those other funding sources.
Mhm. Yeah, for the for profit, what do those teams look like now?
So those teams are, there's two of us.
Okay.
And so my husband and myself, and which my husband is in education and he's a principal. So pretty much when, this all happened, I was working within school districts and so forth and had to step, outside of that because having to manage all of this. And so it I say it's the two of us, but we figure it out. We try to balance it out, but it's a lot of long hours, I'll say, because things continue on outside of that 4 o'clock window, 5 o'clock window, we'll say. And so yeah, it's two of us that are currently working within and doing the traveling and creating those contracts with those various commercial companies. So yes.
You started both of these businesses while you both had full-time jobs?
So yes, so the SHA partnership, we started in 2000, probably around 2017, 18, I want to say. And it was just, something part-time, based upon the work that I was currently doing in school districts. I loved it and I was like, this is something that, I have expertise in, I could do some type of outside work with this. And so it was part-time, and then it was more about supporting other consulting companies at first. And so then after that, it was like, okay, well, let me figure out how to scale this into my company doing exactly what these other consulting companies are doing. And so that's how that happened. And then the in-zone services, the one where we manage operations for commercial organizations, we started that during COVID. And it was so
Oh.
crazy because I'm trying to remember how it started. We were learning about how, when everything was shutting down, and there was a process of, when we were transitioning back into, slowly transitioning back into people being able to go out and go into stores and so forth. But still there was those policies or those protocols in place at these various companies where they were like shutting down for a period of time and needing to have that formal process of cleaning, and so we got into that and started off doing that and was able to advertise paying people $50 an hour to go in, and we provided all the the cleaning resources and so forth, and the paying $50 an hour, which a lot of people are at home, they were able to do it in the evenings, and so to go in and do an overnight type of disinfecting process. And so that's how it started. And then we started building relationships with VP of operations of these companies that we were going and doing that. And then it was, well, do you do this? Will you do that? And it was like, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And so it just unfolded like that. And so, yes, I mean, it was crazy, but and we built since then around that.
Wow. So you found an issue, provided
Yes.
the solution, but then that solution continued to grow into
Mhm.
and yes and yes
Yes,
and.
yes, yes.
Wow.
Quite interesting process. I mean, yes, I mean, and I always say that, you know, it's not by accident. I always believe in the power of, ordained timing by God. And so I just will say that we're truly blessed around building those relationships and maintaining and sustaining them, to being able to grow as we have over the past couple 4 years.
Wow. But your husband still works a full-time gig.
Yes, we love education. We love, 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 love public education. And so he is, yes, a principal still. And he loves, like we said, we love being a part of education. It's always good, to be in a space where, you're supporting, our future, our students who, have such varied backgrounds and need so much support. And it's, how do we continuously improve in doing what's best for them? And, that's our focus and our, we say our purpose, for us, I'm going to always be somewhere in some part, working with it in education as long as I can, because I truly believe in the accountability around that, and the responsibility, and how important it is for for us to, within the systems, to continuously work on improvement. How do we do differently, do better? And, what does that need to look like? Because instead of, a lot of times we can focus on articulating, but then our actions have to align to that. And so that's where a lot of the work that, I do going into school districts is, it's, making sure that our actions align to, what we're saying we're doing. Is it really, student centered? What does that look like? Show me what that looks like to say that that's student centered. How are those behaviors of leaders exhibited to show me that? What does it exhibit? And so it's just important. And I love working within an organization who recognizes and understands that this is all about continuous improvement. And, when they're vested in that, I love to work with any organization that, has that true vested mentality and that drive to be like, what do we need to do? How can you support us in that? And, it makes it a lot easier, of course, when you go in and there's the buy-in around we need to do differently. And so, it makes it such better for the relationship and then the work that comes with that. And so, I just go back to say, I just truly am passionate about that type of work and being able to support school districts, because they need all the support that they can get. They're serving thousands of students, thousands and thousands of students. I mean, that's a responsibility in its own, around student achievement, safety, security, social emotional well-being, just making sure that they have what they need. And, and then in an extension of that, their families, the communities, and building those relationships. So it's just truly an honor to be a part of that type of work. And I wouldn't want to do anything different right now.
I couldn't tell a bit. You are very passionate about that. No, but as you should be. I think
yes,
that's with any business. If you don't actually care about it, it's going to show. Like your customers, your clients,
mm-hmm. Yes,
they'll be able to tell if you're literally just in it for the money.
mm-hmm. Right,
like,
right.
Okay, I think we're good. We'll go somewhere else where they actually care about how the service is provided or the product is produced. So
Definitely.
that's very interesting. But as you're saying all of these things about, do we make change? How do we implement change? But then making sure like our mission statement is actually what we do. Not that you need to start another consulting business, but that could also be for the corporate world or just businesses in general, making sure that the mission is actually what we, words follow with action.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think and I've seen it a few times where a consultant firm comes in, oh yeah, we're supposed to do this crazy dance, and all of a sudden everybody's going to be on board and the team's going to work together again. It'll all be hunky-dory. No, not so much. Not so much.
Right. And, and it takes that type of courageous leadership to, like I said, acknowledge and recognize that, I hate to call them audits, but we need to have an outside perspective come in and to see if we're doing what we're saying we're doing. Because I'm always like, and when I work with leaders, I'm like, you tell me your goals, you tell me your improvement plans, you're telling me this and so forth. I'm like, at the end of the day, if I was to come in and say, what do you believe attributed to that success? I want you to be able to tell me A, B, C. This is what it was. And these were the behaviors and actions aligned that supported what A, B, C is. And I think that, so, and a lot of times when I speak it in that way, there's like this light comes off and it's like, that makes so much sense. I'm like, let's not make this harder.
Yeah.
You're saying you want to do this, and this is the goals that you're saying is going to get you to this mission of what you're wanting to envision, you're wanting to do. So what are the actions and behaviors that are aligned? And then you're able to go back and say, wow, this is what really we can say this right here is what we did to bring about that success.
Mm-hmm.
And when you speak in it in that way, it simplifies it, because it shouldn't be so complex. It really shouldn't be. And I think that's so important, because, we have, in companies, organizations, all kinds of companies, organizations, we have so many documents around, we're saying we're doing plans and all this kind of stuff. And I think we have to, really simplify and keep it simple, so that so it is attainable, because it can get so complex and so just disjointed because of just the complexity of it, where you're running around amok because you don't really know the direction. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Everybody's doing this, and then you have various outside sources trying to sell you this, that, that, and so it's really looking at, okay, where are dollars? Why are we spending this? Why are we doing this? And so evaluation around what we're doing. I guess what I like to say evaluation more than audit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
Yeah,
audit
it's a little bit softer of a term.
yeah. So I just think it's just, so important. I think in any organization, you should always be thinking we're continuously trying to improve, to better
Mm-hmm.
do A, B, C, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then from there, it's how are we going to do that? What is it going to look like to say we're doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And then those behaviors and actions should be able to be articulated when you say the how.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
it's
so,
the abstract.
mhm,
And I mean, we basically do the same thing with financial planning. It's, I want
right,
to get here, I want to retire, I want to have this income. So we backtrack, okay, what is it going to take to get there? Well, that's typically math, it's numbers. So it's pretty easy to explain. If this, then that. But when we add emotions and other people involved
mhm,
at the schools, it's a little more abstract. Okay, if we want to boost, student confidence, that's not as easy to, like, a line item on a spreadsheet. We got to cut cost here,
mhm,
or add, a service there. Is that going to actually equal the result?
right,
So
right.
that's a little more challenging than what I
It
do. Yes,
is.
there's emotion involved with what we do, but most of the time it's just the math, and then we add the story behind it.
Yes, I mean, it's comprehensive, the other thing is you do have to really kind of evaluate how does it look at the various levels, like the micro, the meso, the mega level, those various levels. Like, what does it look like for all those people? Like when you just spoke to that, I mean, I spoke to that, I was like, wow, yeah, it is true. It is comprehensive, but it's thinking through um what does this mean, or how does this impact all of those various people a part of this within this organization. And so thinking through what that looks like for them, around, is it, as we carry out the mission vision. And so it's, it is having a more comprehensive lens around that. And so it is a process. So I definitely
Mhm.
agree with you. It is a process.
Have you
Because
ever been in a situation where it wasn't, like, the feedback wasn't received well?
feedback wasn't received well.
Like, okay, we need to change this. Nah, I think we're good on that. I think we need to change about
You know
this.
what? I will say, there was a space that I was in where they weren't there yet. Um, individually,
Mm-hmm.
there was some, uh, you have to start with yourself. I truly believe that when it comes to doing important work around supporting others, you have to start with yourself, because we all come with various biases, prejudices. We just do. And so you do, I remember being in that space, and it was challenging. It was challenging for those involved, because it was acknowledging various hurts, various pains, various traditions, various you know, things that we just do because we just do, you know. And so it was, getting through that and having to, really dig and so forth. And so I will say it was like you just said, it was truly comprehensive. But I wouldn't say that it was that they weren't willing. I think it was more of a, how do we do this? We know this is big, we know we need to do this, but we're just like stuck at the, how do we do this, And so again, that's where I say it's so important for organizations to really, and you have to be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable when you're bringing outside in to come in and really, evaluate what you're doing. And so, but, it's about really making the process transformative and being very strategic around it, and and working collaboratively. Because I never go into a situation where I know it all. I'm going to be learning from them just as much as they're learning from me. And so it's very important to establish that this is a process of learning for us all, so that we can make sure that at the end we have met the goal we have in place, and we have, delivered whatever it is that we're saying we're coming together to really focus on and establish and create and execute around. And so it's a real collaborative process, and you have to be, myself, I have to be, I have a minor in psychology, and I'm like, God, I need that. I use that every day. Because, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with human beings, you're dealing with mindset, you're dealing with heart sets, you're dealing with philosophies, and everybody's different. And so it's, really coming in and having an open mindset and heart set around that, knowing that everyone is different. No one, now there is some situations, but in the spaces that I work in, I do not believe anyone comes in intentionally not wanting to do better and do differently. And so with that, I have to be very strategic in how do I maneuver through whatever might be hindering them from moving into a space of doing differently. And how do I approach that, and how do I work with them to see that while they are wanting to, they're not actually doing differently and doing what is in the best interest of whatever it might be that we're focused on. And so it's, being real understanding around that, and knowing that it's a process. It takes time, and, reminding them that, again, I'm here as a support to you, in creating and building that relationship. That relationship is just so important. When you're working with such intelligent people, because like I said, I work at the C-suite level, so it's executive directors and above. And so, they're, a lot of them very intelligent, knowledgeable, have a lot of wealth of experience. And so a lot of times you have to maneuver and break down and get to the roots of situations and individuals and their thoughts and their minds and beliefs. And not saying that they can't have those, but it's based upon what we're doing and the work that we need to do. We just have to do a little differently and think a little differently. And so it is very comprehensive. It's a process, truly is. But I love it. I really do. That's why I don't sleep but 4 hours, 5 hours a night, because I'm always like, I could do this, and
constantly thinking about it. Yes. Yeah. You need a notepad by your bedside table, or on your bedside table,
my
write it down.
Unfortunately, we shouldn't do that. But I have I have 2 phones. I have one personal and one professional. And so career and so I constantly have my notes where I, type in my little notes about things that just pop in my mind at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that way it's out of the brain. We're not still
Right,
mulling it over. It's okay. It's
right.
done. We'll
Yes,
come back
yes.
to it later.
I
And
dump it.
some
I
of
have to
that
dump it.
um is knowing your audience. And I think
Hmm.
that's so important really in any industry. And active listening, which
Hmm.
I get from my theater background. It's take in what the person is trying to tell you, but then also it's the body language, it's the whole package. Like, how are they receiving this information? Is it all going over their head? Are they on their phones? Are they staring out into space? They're falling asleep.
Hmm.
So knowing your audience and knowing like what motivates them too, I think can also be a game changer for anybody, especially anybody coming in from the outside,
Yeah,
doing your
yeah,
research ahead of time, making sure we might know that, okay, this is the alpha male in the group or the alpha female in the group. Got it.
yeah,
We'll address you later, but we'll address the rest
yeah,
of the peanut gallery first. That's
yeah,
gotta
yes,
be
yeah.
challenging.
There definitely are some dynamics, like I said, when you work at that level, there's dynamics. But like I said, no one has intentions of just not doing what is necessary to do right by the families and communities that they
That's
serve.
good.
And so it's like I said, you have to maneuver through and get to the root and, get through all that murky water and, and so that we can move to, okay, the execution of it all. But you have to, there's that process of getting through all of that. And so that, again, I can work more effectively and we can all work effectively together,
Mhm.
collaboratively. So, yeah. But again, like I said, I love it. It's fun. It's exciting. And I love how you brought up listening because I have learned, I actually have an executive coach that works with me.
Oh, nice.
And because I believe as a leader, I need to be coached as well around, things that, that I might not necessarily see in myself as I'm trying to facilitate leadership. And what that needs to look like for, like I said, the families and communities they serve. And so I love how you brought up about the listening because, like I said, like I sleep 4 hours, but my mind, I'm always, as someone's talking, I'm already, I found myself already thinking through like, how am I going to respond instead of really sitting back and listening. And like you said, and so that's an area for me that I've had to work on for myself as a leader is that, stop, listen, then process and think through and then it's okay to say, let's pause here for a minute so that I can process instead of always being just so responsive and reactive to
Mhm.
what's coming out. And so it's taking those moments of pause to, okay, let's stop. A lot was said. Let's all stop. Let's think. Let's jot down, some initial thoughts right now that we're having, some initial feelings that we're having currently where we are in this space. And so, I've that process they think is for them, but it's actually for me
Yeah, it's for the
because
group.
I want to be able to, you know, initially as a leader, as someone who, wants to create and problem solve, I want to be able to give the solution, right then I'm like in my mind, oh, I know what we could do. But sometimes you have to take that time to pause and really process, is this what I really heard them
Mhm.
saying? Or did they say this or were they meaning this? Do I have some follow-up questions I need to ask around what they said, so forth? Does anyone
Mhm.
else in the space have, and so it's a process. And so but yes, I will say for me, I've had to recognize um that I have to create opportunity and space to actually listen and process before responding so that I
Mhm.
can make sure that I'm effectively listening and responding accordingly to what they
Yeah.
need. So,
Yeah,
yes.
we don't like the silence. The awkward and the silence. It's okay. Live in it. it's funky, but especially in a group setting, I'm still envisioning being a fly on the wall, like all of the executives in the same room, they all probably have ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I know on Zoom, this is probably something that like drives me bonkers. It's really hard. It's whoever talks first then gets the mic. Versus in like a physical, like in-person setting. You could like overlap some with one
Mm-hmm.
another and catch something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, there was something else I thought of. Oh shoot. I'll have to come back to it. See, I should have written it down.
It's
The point
okay.
in case, right there, live in action.
Yes.
Um, and it was Brene Brown talking
Yes.
about like repeating. Are you
Mm-hmm.
familiar with her stuff?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
amazing on like a one-on-one
Mm-hmm.
relationship base, but especially if it's in a group setting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Having a format for communication.
Yes.
Like, so I am not jumping down like your back, jumping at you, not getting mad at you. I'm just wanting to
Mm-hmm.
make sure I received like the story I am telling myself is
Mm-hmm. Yes.
based on what you told me, this is how I
Mm-hmm.
received it. Is that
Yes.
how you wanted it portrayed? I
Mm-hmm.
think is so, so important.
Yes.
Especially as you're going through like a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe somebody's like full steam ahead, let's go. Somebody else is like, oh, this still feels awkward. I'm not
Yes.
ready.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you brought that up because yes, it's about creating that psychological safety for everyone involved, even in, I do professional development for hundreds and hundreds of people in a space. And so, creating that safety net around, we can talk openly, we can be transparent in this space. It's okay to admit your area of needing growth or admitting or sharing your um, ways of excelling or how you're doing something. It's okay in this space to be able to be that person, and show up in this space, um, being a giver as well as a taker of what we're doing in this space. And so that psychological safety, it reminded me of when you were talking. I was like, yes, psychological safety is so important,
Yeah.
to make sure that that's created for any space that we come into, around continuous improvement and doing differently, doing better. So
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Is there any point within the process where they're having to communicate the change? Like, okay, we know we want to accomplish or raise student morale, um, or student confidence. Is there ever like a show and tell kind of process of, okay, this is what it would look like in the classroom if this scenario came up? And then there's the peanut gallery watching and then critiquing. Is that ever a scenario with what you guys do?
So it's definitely around acknowledging what currently is happening,
Okay.
based upon, like I said, there's those different levels of impact. And so it's being able to articulate and know what at those various levels is happening based on the what, we're saying, we're doing. Um, and being able to understand what that looks like, at those various levels. And then from there, it's determining what what we're doing, is it working? Is it effective? Is it efficient? And so forth. And so it's from there, that's where the conversation starts, where it's okay, we're doing, that's where I say we just run them up. We're just running around with the heads cut off and we're just doing, and then we don't even realize all the things that we're doing because it's just so much. And then everyone's not even vested as they should be because they're trying to balance the other 20 things, and so forth. And so it's really, really, like I said, going through that process of understanding what are we doing and why are we doing this and how do we know it's effective? So those 3 W's, I always say, how do we know it's effective? And then do we need to do anything differently based on, okay, well, these might not be really effective because we don't see how it's really contributing to positive student outcomes. We don't see that it's really contributing to positive morale, organizational morale outcomes, whatever it is our focus, And so it's from there, it's okay, are we going to continue to do this and be insane? Or are we going to be like, we need to no longer do this. It is not serving us well. And so from there, then it's okay. So we're down to, we see that these are, providing us some good, positive impact. However, is it over the long term? Then it's the question of, over the long term, is it going to continue to serve us in that manner? Or is it that, okay, now we see where we can do something differently and get it at a higher leverage and make a larger impact by doing something differently. So it's truly a process, I will say, and it takes time, and it takes everybody being transparent, because it's so funny, because it's like I said, sometimes it's like, we didn't even know we were doing all this. And then I review like various documents and so forth within the organizations around the work and so forth like that. And, I might question, okay, well, it says here in this particular document that this is supporting this. And then they're like, oh, we didn't even know who are, and so it's, it's truly a process of, just really looking at, what are we doing? And does it make sense to keep doing what we're doing? And if not, what are we going to do differently to really make that large impact, positive impact?
Yeah, I think the same overall reassess, step back, look at it with a clean slate. Are we effective? Are we reaching towards our goals? Can be something that every business owner does, or every individual does. We work on goals. Something you said earlier about like actionable items. This then beget this, which beget this. We do SMART goals with households at the beginning of the year. So it's literally writing a to-do list. If I do these things, because we all feel very accomplished when I can write it off the list, like I did this, like getting the gold star as a kid, like I got the sticker. But then it's baby incremental things that you can then measure that, yes, it is getting us towards, or no, we're not. So I think that's a good thing that anyone could implement, whether it's on an individual basis or even as a business, to make sure that we're not running amok and not throwing spaghetti on the wall, that we are actually going forward, we're making an impact, changing our own lives, or making an impact for the company and then our customers and such.
Yes. And you know what, something came up as you were speaking. I was listening to you though. But something did come to mind when you said that, because sometimes I think also, because there's always change in leadership, shifts in leadership. And I always think this is also an important process to go through in that change in leadership, because, a lot of times it gets lost when there's that shift and that change. People, it just gets lost. And then that's where you have individuals that are, in those positions of leadership after that shift and after that change, and they might not really necessarily understand what's actually happening and what's going on and so forth. And so it's important to go through this process too, when there's like major shifts and change in leadership, to make sure that there's a true understanding of a pulse of what's happening
Yes.
and
Where
what we're
are
doing.
we
Yes.
before I
And
can
so,
drive the
mhm,
ship somewhere else?
yes, yes, yes. With those individuals that have that historical um, vantage, a lot of times you have people who are in those spaces who aren't utilized with that historical vantage to support leadership in this shift and in this change. And so I think it's very important that organizations really think around that when there's major changes in leadership to go through a process similar as that process as we were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like turnaround CEOs come in and change everything, throw it all out the window. Like, probably should assess first. Well, one last question for you. So as you've gone through, since we've really focused on like the education
Mhm.
platform, has there been an experience that you've gone through with a team that was like the biggest growing change, or oh, what am I trying to say? Uh like biggest light bulb moment that you could then also relay into all of your other businesses? It was like the best aha moment that you've experienced so far with a team.
Definitely. I really recognize and appreciate and applaud organizations that allow for the time for these types of processes because it only really helps to ensure them doing better and um, truly centering the focus around the change and what needs to happen. And so I think that with having that actual time allotted and space to do that, I will say working with the various organizations, yes, it does happen because it's allowed to happen. And that's where I don't take on contracts where, yes, I want to make money, yes. However, I'm going to, because I have to be, it's about integrity for me.
Mm.
I don't want to go into an organization that's really not about. It's just to say that it's something we're doing the next
Checked it
board
off.
meeting.
We did the
Yeah,
thing.
we did this, we hired, but there was really nothing about the work that really shows in supporting the impact that is wanted. And so I want to be selective. I want to continue to be selective in working with organizations that, have integrity around the work, the true work. I will say I was blessed to work in an organization when I was working in school districts, and I had the opportunity to work with schools that were considered not the schools that were doing well. But I will say that those individuals, those principals, and those administrators, leadership teams that I worked with, they really wanted to make a substantial positive impact, and they wanted to know what they need to do that. And so having the opportunity to work with individuals who are truly vested and really do want to do the work that it takes to bring about change, it's a beautiful thing in the result of it. And so yes, I will say based upon, again, honoring my belief around what it takes to serve the students that we serve in our families and communities. Um, I have to honor that and know that any situation or organization that I'm going to work within it's truly aligned with my philosophy, my belief around that, um, and the integrity around that. And so I'm not going to place myself in a position to where it's around just we have to do this because we're on a list or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. On the short list, we're not
Yeah,
doing well. Apparently, we got to do
right.
this thing.
We're being reactive. I love to work with organizations who are being proactive around continuous improvement because it's we're always continuously needing to improve in everything that we do. And so that's where I will say, yes, there has been success around that because I make sure that I'm working in spaces where it's truly about being invested into doing what is necessary um, to get the results, the positive results and outcomes that are needed for the families and communities that we serve. So yes.
No, I see that being, it's fit. If you're not the customer for my services, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I also don't need to take on literally every single person or
Right.
every single organization. That is also okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
exactly.
realizing that and having, standing up for what you believe in and knowing that what your product and services are worth, I think is
Mm-hmm.
also very important. Being confident enough to say, no, I don't need to work on that project. That's a growing process as an individual
Mm-hmm.
or as a business owner. So that's good that you have gotten to that point. That's super exciting. I think
Yes.
that then relates to your organizations that will then fund your nonprofits. It's that same fit.
Mm-hmm.
Missions need to be aligned,
Mm-hmm.
purpose, and
Yes.
then action going forward so that there's that continual relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, we could
Yeah.
talk literally for hours about all of the different
I
things,
know,
missions.
exactly, exactly. I just, for the two nonprofits, I will say that, it's an honor to be able to serve individuals who don't necessarily have access to the things that they need in order to support them. And, I just, like I said, I really want to be able to grow it and make a larger impact. And so um, figuring out how to do that as again as we can. And I have a wonderful development like the tutoring one. We are rebranding and rebuilding. So and then the one serving the Hispanic and African American males and aging out of foster care, we're branding it right now, and it's just that the statistics are alarming. What happens to these individuals as they age out of foster care. It's really alarming, and so it's definitely a need to be able to, and it's a blessing to be able to provide support in that way for the need.
Yeah.
So
We got to get you a grant writing person.
please,
That, or
please,
we need to outsource it and get you access to somebody that does that.
yes, and you're right. And that's a I need
So that
to.
you don't have to worry about that. That's out of your brain, off of the plate,
Yes,
and we
yes,
can grow that impact.
yes, exactly. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to see where
Thank
you
you.
guys go from here
Yes.
and rebranding. So look forward to seeing all of that.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you so much, Lisa. It has been a pleasure. I appreciate
yes.
it.
Yes, yes.
Thank
And
you.
hope you guys all log in and listen to our next episode.
All right. Thank you.